66 East Grand Avenue, Unit 2, 1 year-round rental. Also, and 305-6115, 66 East Grand Avenue, Unit 5, 1 year-round rental. And 205-662, 6 Imperial Street, Unit 2, 1 year-round rental. And 205-668, 6 Imperial Street, Unit 8, 1 year-round rental. We'll open that public hearing at 8 p.m. Comments from members of the public? Comments, concerns from council?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made in second. If there's no further discussion and none opposed, motion carries 4-0. To our town manager's report this evening.
Thank you, Chair O'Neill. I'll make this pretty quick. Fall paving is going to begin this week with reclaim work on Portland Avenue, beginning at Cascade and then going past Walnut as far as the Beechwoods condominiums. We are also going to be doing reclaim work on Miles, Atlantic Avenue from Washington to 3rd Street, and on Wilbur Ave. There's a number of streets on our paving list, and we will do as many as we can while the weather holds this month, including portions of Seacliff, Fern Park Ave, Ross Road, Reggio, Odessa, Park, Cookman, Aldine, Patoyne, Pavia, Connecticut, and Doobie. So we'll go as long as the weather holds, the paving plants are open, and we can get a good fit, so. And the money holds out. I wanted to just remind people that absentee ballots are now available. The clerk's office mailed out 2,600 ballots on Friday. I just want to commend the clerk's office. They've really been doing a tremendous amount of work this past week. A lot of pressure and a lot of hours. So they're doing a wonderful job. That includes our seasonal temporary employees who come in for elections. Registered voters who wish to vote absentee and who haven't gotten a ballot yet can request one. They can either be mailed to you, or you can pick up a ballot at Town Hall. And while here, if you choose, you can fill out that ballot, or you can drop it off, take it home, bring it back, drop it off in the voting drop box right outside the front entrance of Town Hall, or return it by mail. If you do come to Town Hall, you must wear a mask, and there will be a monitor at the door to regulate access to Town Hall so that we can maintain social distancing. There's a tent in the parking lot that is there to accommodate the folks who might be waiting to be admitted to Town Hall. The absentee hours for in-person voting are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., and then extended hours Tuesday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you're registering to vote or you're changing your name or address within the town, you can go here at Town Hall to the 3rd floor where we're doing that work. If you're registering to vote and you plan on going to vote at the high school on election day, you'll register to vote at the town clerk's office on the 2nd floor. And if you don't know whether you're registered to vote in Old Orchard Beach and you want to make sure we have the correct address and name on file if you are, then just call us at 934-4042 or email the town clerk at kmclaughlin@oobmaine.com. The barriers that we've had downtown all summer long and through the beginning of the fall have been removed, those that are adjacent to the square. Now that the weather's turning colder, we have left some of the barriers on East and West Grand Avenue, and we'll keep them there until such time as the restaurants located on those streets that are using outdoor dining on the sidewalk close for the season. I think the barriers were effective this past summer in allowing social distancing for those who were downtown and wanted to avail themselves of some of the takeout food services that we have down there. And then finally, I just want to remind residents that the Libby Memorial Library is open during this time for your use. It's open every day except for Sunday and Monday, and they're operating in such a way that you can feel safe and stay healthy while you go there. If you want to use the library in person, you call ahead, and you can schedule a visit between 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. Tuesday through Friday, and between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. on Saturdays. The library limits the number of visitors in the building to no more than 5 at a time. You can also take advantage of curbside pickup if you don't want to go there in person inside the building. What to order, you can call the library or contact the library to order books or videos ahead of time. Staff will find your selections, and they'll have them waiting for you at the parking lot entrance during their operating hours. There's also virtual programming available for children, including virtual story times on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and a new video activity called STEAM every month. That stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Math. So please don't forget about going to the library. Check it out on their website or their Facebook page for full information. Thank you.
Thank you as well, Mr. Mead. Well done. To new business this evening, item number 7294, discussion with action to approve the liquor license renewal for Ban Nayan, doing business as Faux OOB LLC, 2053 6A 48 Old Orchard Street, MSV in a restaurant.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, council. Motion has been made and second. There's no further discussion? And none opposed, motion carries 4-0. Item number 7295, discussion with action to approve the services of Atlantic Pump to rebuild activated sludge pump number 2 in the amount of $14,536.35 out of the wastewater CIP account 53002-50846 with a balance of $23,062.22.
So moved. Second.
Motion has been made and second. If there's no further discussion, and none opposed, motion carries 4-0. Item number 7296, discussion with action to approve the services of Ted Berry Company in the amount of $17,300 out of the wastewater account number 20161-50342, waste pumping expenses with a balance of $35,000.
So moved.
Second. Thank you, council. Motion has been made and second. If there's no further discussion, and none opposed, motion carries 4-0. Item number 7297, discussion with action to approve the quote to replace 3 blower stages from Aizern Corporation in the amount of $43,369.51 from account number 30181-50551, Wastewater Sewer Reserve Fund, Operating Equipment Expense Fund, with a balance of $532,108.20.
So moved. Second.
Just as a point of interest for the public, folks, all of these are just agenda items that we've already vetted through the budget process, so there's nothing that we haven't already seen or come before us in the past. That's why we're not having much of a discussion or presentation on them. We're aware of the expenses, and we're just moving them forward. So it's a formality. So thank you for your understanding and your patience with that. So with that being said, if there's no further discussion, and none opposed, that motion will carry 4-0 as well. Item number 7298, discussion with action to set the public hearing date of October 20th, 2020, to amend the Town of Old Orchard Beach Code of Ordinances, Section 54187, Odana Avenue, changing the prohibition of parking from the left-hand side to the right-hand side facing the ocean, from the railroad to the seawall. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. That's actually incorrect. The request that was made by one of the people that lives on that street was from Seaside to the beach. When I asked the town clerk to put that language together, I forgot to tell her that it was just from Seaside. So it's not the entire length of Odina that's being requested.
Okay.
And the issue is in the summer months especially, people parking adjacent to the properties on the right-hand side. They're very close. They can't get out of their walkways or driveways, or with the vehicles that are parked there. The other side of the street has fewer residences. It's actually only 2, and there are, it actually would reduce it from 5 spaces to 3 by going to the other side. And I have spoken with, I haven't spoken personally, but I've gotten emails and spoken to some of the people, most of the people who live there, and none of them have any issues with it in that particular section. But there is one email that Jen got from a gentleman who was opposed to it because he parks there, I guess, to go to the beach. So during the public hearing, I'm sure all these issues, but I just wanted to clarify, it's from Seaside to the beach.
Okay. Thank you for that. So that'll be correct on the next agenda for us, clarity, just for clarification purposes. Yep, very good, thank you.
Need a motion?
Yes, I do.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made in second. Set the public hearing date of October 20th, next meeting. If there's no further discussion, none opposed, the motion carries 4-0. Item number 7299, discussion with action. To consider a request to locate one handicap parking spot on Atlantic Avenue, 235 feet east of Atlantic Avenue / Saco Avenue intersection on the left-hand side facing the ocean. Chief.
Again, that's a request that comes from the development of the Atlantic Courts. There's going to be handicap accessibility to picnic tables and also handicap accessible walkways to the court itself. And so from the street in, we need some type of parking there for handicapped vehicles so they can access that path to the park.
Excellent. Thanks for clarifying that as well. Yep. Is there a motion, Council?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Council. That motion has been made in second. If there's no further discussion, none opposed, motion will carry 4-0. Item number 7300, discussion with action. To approve the equipment repair for the new clutch for Public Works McLean MV tractor in the amount of $11,705.21 from Beauregard Equipment from account number 20151-50452, Public Works Operating Equipment Repair Expense with a balance of $143,067.43.
So moved.
Second.
Through the chair.
Councilor Kelly.
Larry, is this an older piece of equipment?
No, it's not. Actually, it's a couple years old, and unfortunately, we had what I would characterize as operator error with an inexperienced operator this summer. We were using the flail mower, the flail component of the vehicle, excuse me, and they mistakenly, while they were using it for hours on end, had it in four-wheel drive, and it ended up blowing the clutch. So one of those unfortunate, painful lessons.
Thanks for that explanation. Further questions or discussion, Council? Having none and none opposed, that motion will carry 4-0 as well. Item number 7301, discussion with action. To approve the services of Woods Excavating to repair underground leak in the plant water system in the amount of $9,800 out of account number 20161-50452, wastewater equipment repair with a balance of $32,244.44.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Council. Motion
Through the
has
chair.
been made in second. Mr. Mead.
Yeah, I just want to inform council that this actually is work that has already been done. It was done as an emergency. It took place in mid-September after the last council meeting, and we had to repair it because it was a pipe that was leaking underground. But under the town's procurement rules, purchases in excess of $5,000 are to go through council. So that's why it's here tonight.
Very good. Thank you for that. If there's no further discussion, and none opposed, motion will carry 4-0. For the emergency agenda items that we added earlier before the meeting started, just want to point out, folks, both these agenda items are time sensitive. If they are for the reconstruction of the Atlantic Courts, in which the town was a recipient of a grant of $100,000. So we want to try to get as much of that work completed this year before the snow flies. So as the paving companies are still operating, council is still willing to help out with the project. We want to move this forward in a timely fashion. So that's why these became emergency agenda items this evening. Brings us to item number 7302, discussion with action. To accept the bid from Beaverbrook Trails, LLC, for court improvements to the Atlantic Avenue Park and to authorize the town manager to enter into a contract in the amount not to exceed $35,481 funded by the CDBG Community Enterprise Grant from account number 30413-50735, CDBG Community Enterprise Grant Expense Account with a balance of $95,000.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made in second. There's no further discussion. None opposed, that motion will carry 4-0. And item number 7303, discussion with action, to accept the bid from Robillard Brothers Landscaping for park improvements to the Atlantic Ave Park, and to authorize the town manager to enter into a contract in the amount not to exceed $53,200, funded by the CDBG Community Enterprise Grant, from account number 30413-50735, CDBG Community Enterprise Grant Expense Account, with a balance of $95,000.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, council. Motion has been made and second. If there's no further discussion, and none opposed, motion will carry 4-0 as well. And that, we thank you folks for your patience this evening as we went through our lengthiest agenda thus far this year, I believe. So,
Motion to adjourn.
so with that being said, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And just for discussion purposes, immediately following this meeting, there'll be a council workshop to discuss the temporary sewer line construction and easement upgrades to public sewer on Saco Avenue for the potential project conducted by Ocean Ridge on Emerson Cummings Boulevard. With that being said, no further discussion, none opposed, motion will carry 4-0. Thank you, folks, for viewing, and have a good night. Hey, hold on. Mike's off. I'm still live, yeah. We're gonna go right into that workshop. I think everybody's here for that workshop, so we're ready, yeah. Maybe check them around.
Yeah.
Funny guy, huh?
Yeah, so if we have time this fall, and we have money left over,
Just one or two times is all I need.
yeah, that's one of the reasons that's on there, is because I saw that. Thank you, Robin.
Have a good night, Robin.
Robin, nice to see you.
Robin, you still on the planning board? Are you? Yeah.
That's what I said.
Yeah, okay.
So I just, I'm gonna buy a mower next year. I didn't wanna buy one this year.
I'll talk to you. That's great. Because it's not just the mower. It's not just the mower. You get the weed whacking, you get the blowing service, you get the whole.
You're the man.
I'm very busy. Want to work part-time? We can butter it out.
Yeah, man.
You could use the exercise.
Well, listen to.
Oh, yeah. Skinny
Oh,
Minnie.
sorry. It was the reflection of the plexiglass.
Mr. Skinny.
I'm gonna try to make this. Yeah. Okay, we still wanna go executive session first? Do we need to? Okay, yeah, just for a couple of moments, okay. All right. So with that being said, folks, I'll now open the town council workshop at 8:19 for one item on our agenda this evening, to discuss the temporary sewer line construction easement and upgrades to the public sewer on Saco Avenue for Ocean Ridge MBL 20712, 63 to 91 E. Emerson Cummings Boulevard. So it is anticipated, and council is actually going to go into executive session for this, for the explanation as follows. During the workshop, the council will be going into executive session in order to discuss or to consider the condition, acquisition, or the use of real or personal property permanently attached to the real property or interest therein, or disposition of publicly held property or economic development. Okay, this item discusses real property defined under Title 1 MRSA, Section 405, subsection 6, subsection C, in consultations with the town attorney under Title 1 MRSA, Section 405, subsection 6, subsection E. And the council anticipates that this discussion portion will obviously occur in executive session. So with that being said, council, is there a motion to enter into executive session?
Motion is ready.
Second?
Motion to enter into executive session has been made in second, and just for discussion purposes, this will not be a long executive session, folks, just so we don't keep you, for the lack of a better term, hanging on the wind out there. So we're obviously recognizing your interest in this, and we'll try to be brief in our executive session meeting. We'll get right back to you. Thank you for that.
Through the chair?
Yes.
Just so that anybody who's watching this at home knows that while the council's in executive session, the screen will go blank. They won't see anything and they won't hear anything. And then when you come out of executive session, it'll resume.
Okay. So council enters into executive session at 8:21. Motion has been made in second. If there's no further discussion and none opposed, the motion carries 4-0. Okay. Welcome back, folks, and we apologize for the interruption as we had to go through our executive session to talk about the key points to this project. And just as a recap, the agenda item for the council workshop is to discuss a temporary sewer line construction easement and upgrades to the public sewer on Saco Avenue for the Ocean Ridge MBL, and I won't get into the numbers. It's a project on E. Emerson Cumming Boulevard. That was the tax map block and lot number that you didn't need to hear once again. So with that, folks, again, gentlemen, thank you for your patience and your time this evening. I know we've met a time or two in the past. So we have some new numbers before us this evening, and so the numbers seem to be changing a little bit as we lengthen our time in between visits, and council has a few concerns with that. So if we would, can you give us an update, compare the numbers and how you feel about the new numbers and where your thoughts are now with that? So we have an idea of give us a starting point, I guess, is what you...
Through the chair, can I just so the numbers before us tonight, when we last met, the town's engineer from Wright Pierce, Stephanie Hubbard, we instructed her to work with developers to understand where the budget numbers had come from and to give her opinion of overall budget amounts. So I was speaking with Stephanie, and I think you know, Bob Metcalf, Bob, you're aware of this. She did make some adjustments. She acknowledges that her estimate is a conservative estimate. She's upfront about that, but that's how we typically do budget these types of projects, given the uncertainties that sometimes you run into that you just don't know about. Plus, I think there was a couple of significant changes that Stephanie made from what Shaw Brothers had put forward with respect to the trench widths, and the length, number of linear feet of sewer pipe that were part of it as well. So that's where the numbers came from. And I think from the town's perspective, we rely on our engineers to give us guidance, and so that's the guidance we've gotten.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that explanation.
Yes, thank you, Larry. So, and to that end, we all worked closely with Stephanie over the last 2 weeks. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Better know. Thank you. Yes, you
Thank
forget. We all worked closely with Stephanie over the last 2 weeks to try and make sure she had the right numbers from Shaw broken down the way, she needed them so she could start to extrapolate the individual details. And then basically what we did was we went over and, okay, what could go wrong, right? I mean, is the trench wide enough that they're digging? Do we need to make it wider? So let's do that. Let's add in a 15% contingency because we're not sure what we don't know, right? Curb cuts, things like this. So what the numbers that you have before you are the most conservative swing at this thing that anybody felt comfortable with, right? I mean, I think it's at the high end of the spectrum. I think the hope would be that the project would come in at 900,000 or $1 million, something like that. But I think you have to look at, if you don't do this for a couple of years, there's an escalator in here for inflation and cost increases. I mean, this really checks every single box for how conservative could you be when you were trying to estimate a job. And so Stephanie looked at that, of course, and every time we did that, I'd sort of cringe a little bit and say, can we knock something off here or there? But there was no negotiation on this. It was just, what did we look at? What were the elements that needed to be considered? You think about the time, we think about the contingency, the things the unknown unknowns, and that's what this number represents. So when we talk about cost sharing, things like this, let me give you a baseline for where we are today before we even talk about a number, okay? Just let me explain the situation as the zoning lays today, what we're trying to do for the future. We talked about condos in the last project and in the last meeting that we were here. As the zoning currently sits, we have the right to do 34 market rate units which is dead in the water. Nobody can make heads or tails of that with any kind of contribution on the sewer. No one can do that, which is, where the owner has been on this thing for, 10 years. If we do an age-restricted community, we can do up to 90 units, because lesser impact on the infrastructure for schools and things like this. We can do that as of right today. That is not our ideal scenario. We're not age-restricted developers per se, and an age-restricted project would most likely need to be a LIHTC deal, low-income housing tax credit deal, to make the finances work. All right, so what we have today is two scenarios. One, dead in the water, 34 units, not going to happen. 90 units could be a possibility, and we've run the numbers on that, and I'll back into those numbers in a minute. When we talk about condos and what we would like to do, and what we had talked to the planning board about, was we'd ask them to release us from the age restriction requirement. And we talked, I think, in the last meeting with all the schools, the high school, the middle school, the lower school that are bounding this site. I mean, it'd be a perfect place for families. I think it'd be a shame not to see families that could walk across the street to school. That'd be pretty great. But, may happen, may not. So we have already worked through a, what was the meeting that we had with them? What was it called?
It was a workshop session with the planning board to present the concept design for the 80 units based on it being, at one point we looked at doing it with a certain percentage of age restricted.
Could you come up, please, just so the folks at home could hear? Thank you. I don't, yeah.
I should know this, I do this
That's
so
all right.
often,
That's all right. Yeah.
What it was a workshop with the planning board to present the concept design that we wanted to do, and we initially started with a certain percentage of age restricted. I think we had 20 units of age restricted and 60 units of the condo unit ownership. And as part of that discussion with the planning board, while at the workshop session they can't give you a blessing and say, yeah, go ahead and let's start do this, it's to get some of their feedback. Some of the feedback we got was they weren't necessarily interested in age restricted so much, and they didn't seem to have an issue with the 80 units of being a market unit that would be single unit ownership. And so that's where we left it at that point, without getting a definitive from them. Yes, we can support you 100% because under the way the statute or the standards are written, they can't do that. So anyway, that's where we then started looking at the numbers and get us to this point here to talk about the sewer, which is the key thing to make this project work. Our office worked on the original project, and I think I presented that to you folks originally when we were looking at 39 age-restricted units, and the only options were to go to Dunegrass or go cross-country to another pump station, which right now I can't remember where that was, but they could not get the abutting landowners to grant an easement to take the sewer that way, and that project went away because the issue with sewer on Saco Avenue was the same issue we have today, if not maybe even worse than what it was back in 2006. So that's what got us to where we are now. So.
Excellent, thank you, yeah.
So that gets us to a sort of chicken and egg kind of moment, right? Where the only thing we're certain of is a 90-unit age-restricted community. Now, as much as the planning board voiced their desire to see maybe market rate, we don't know how that's going to shake out. Right? I mean, I don't have that approval yet, and I don't know. So I have a very hard time when we talk numbers tonight trying to so we're looking at these numbers from the most conservative standpoint, right? I have to look at our numbers at the most conservative standpoint too, which is, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. Worst case scenario is we can get through this, and I do not get a market rate exemption, and I have to do age-restricted units. And then every penny starts to matter because the way the LIHTC deals are funded with subsidies and tax credits, you can't really go out and raise private money for those kinds of deals. If any of you have experience with them, then you understand. If you don't, it becomes you can't just go get another $300,000 from an investor to throw into a project because the margins are so small. And when you start talking about, how do you make a LIHTC deal pencil? Right now, we're at a point where we're trying, and I made some assumptions on where we may show up here today, we've got a $200,000 shortfall, which is not insurmountable. I mean, we can talk about, value engineering certain things in buildings and less parking spaces and things like that. But that's all stuff I can do downstream. But if we get too far out of pocket just here and the land cost, basically I look at this as a land cost increase, right? I mean, whatever we have to contribute for this goes to just increase the cost of the dirt. And for that, we lose points. And when you do a LIHTC application, low income housing tax credit application, you get points for various different things. And if you don't have, I think the applications are at 97 points, and if you don't have 78 points, you're not even in the running. We come up at like 83 right now. And one of those points, categories you get is for the cost of land, and you get 6 points for that. So when I tell you that if our land cost goes too high, we can't do this deal, it's not lip service to you guys, it's true. That's sort of where we are. So, I think we can probably absorb, if you look at it, if we weren't talking about a sewer upgrade, we'd be at 135,000 in sewer impacts. If we're talking about a 90-unit project, I think we can more than triple that. I think the number, if we were somewhere in the 450-odd thousand range, is a number that we can live with, and it makes the thing pencil. And $450,000 number.
I couldn't hear what you were saying. You're talking about
The sewer impact fees? Yes, sir. So the $1,500 a door at 90 doors, our sewer impact fee, if there wasn't a sewer problem, would be $135,000.
It's connection fee, the sewer
Connection
connection fee, and it's 3,000. Isn't it 3,000?
it's three. Yeah, I'm gonna say your number was off.
Oh, okay. I read it. Sorry, that's on us then, because it was in some of our internal paperwork. We had a note there.
That's why I had to repeat that. The number didn't sound right.
Okay, no, thank you for that. So, so 270,000. So not tripling, but we could double that number then in that case. I mean, 450, 500, that's about a stretch for us as far as the LIHTC is concerned. Now, if I came to you with an approval for a market rate deal, I could probably get that up a little bit, but the problem is I can't even go to get the approvals if I don't have this, because it's going to cost us another $100,000 to put the plans together, the application process, everything else to get it done, and we can't spend that money without a sewer connection. So, in fact, everything hinges on this. I mean, I can't get an application in for LIHTC without, and you guys understand, we can't go anywhere without a sewer connection. So it's, when I say chicken and egg, we get the chicken and egg. So, I think, I wish I could tell you we could absorb 650,000 and make it easy for you and say half, but I mean, 450, 500, that's really the maximum of where we go if we factor in the sewer impact fee, the connection fee, I'm sorry you call it, and our contribution to this improvement program. I think, that's the best we can do about it.
So you're saying that you could only do the 250 on the sewer impact fee, plus $400,000 towards the cost of the sewer?
No, including the sewer impact fee. So you get $270,000 for the sewer impact, which in theory would go to doing things like this, right? So
Would, but yeah.
our total number needs to be right around that $450,000 number.
With the sewer impact fee?
Yes,
And the sewer?
yes.
Not going to happen.
So, well,
Yeah.
I'm out.
yeah.
Well, we don't have, I mean, we can't do anything about it.
Right.
The numbers are too tight, and so.
We're restricted as well, so just so you're aware, and it's public policy as well, so anything over $500,000 expense to the town has to go to public referendum.
Okay,
So
so,
obviously, we're too late for that because the elections, so that's it, so the next one.
So I guess where I was at, so.
yes, sir.
You talked the chicken and the egg, let me tell you where I'm at on that. So, with the impact fees of 250, I figured, and then the taxes that would come in would equate to just over $500,000, and I'd be willing to do that up to $500,000. So technically, those fees and taxes were going to cover the residents' cost. Okay.
Okay.
So then technically, the cost directly from the taxpayer is almost nil at that point. Okay.
So you're saying we have the increase in tax.
300,000.
Okay, so we call it 300, okay? And we've got 275 from the
We'll
impact
use
fee.
250. So you're
Okay.
you're at 5.
Call 250, call 250, we'll do round math. That gets you to 550, okay? Right, that's with me, I'm out of pocket, we collectively, the 250, whatever. So that gets us to 550. If the town can do 500, that gets us to $1,050,000. and we've got a shortfall.
No, I don't know what you're talking,
So
that's kind of.
couple complications with that, so
Well, yeah,
we can't
the
go.
way you figure it, what I'm saying is,
Yeah, you're using the revenues and adding the expense to the revenue.
yeah, I'm not looking to take that, I'm looking for the revenue that we're getting, and that's gonna be, that's, what I want the taxpayers to know is that if we do this, and we were okay with doing $500,000, that the taxpayers, by the time that project has been built out, would not have cost the taxpayers anything.
So, I'm trying to figure that out. So you say the town, let's do the 500 from the town, okay, so we got that.
Right, so forget about what I said, if you had, I'd be okay, personally, with the town committing the 500,000
Yes,
to do the 1 point, if these are numbers 1.275
yes,
on a sewer line, just so the residents know that does need to be done at some point in time.
right,
So if a development is gonna go in, and that we're committing $500,000 of taxpayers' money, that the taxpayers are actually gonna get that back between the sewer impact fees.
of course.
Of $250, and then the added revenue from taxes on the property when it's developed out. So that the residents understand that we're not looking to put taxpayers' money out there to have a development go in. That the development is actually trying to help to cover the cost of the sewer line that needs to be upgraded. Does that make sense, Larry?
Yeah, it does, sure.
So let's pull the 500 out because that's easy, right? There's no question about that, all right? So then there's a 700. If we assume these numbers are correct, which I think they're super fat, but whatever. We gotta talk about them being what they are tonight. There's $775,000 left if the town commits 500K. We would be putting in, just off the top anyways, and let's use the right numbers, to call $275,000 for the sewer impact fee.
That does, you're giving that to us, but that goes into the town coffers. That's our money at that
So
point.
you're saying you're looking for us to come up with the extra
What I'm
775?
saying is I'd be willing as a counselor to commit $500,000 because the money that we'd be getting between the impact fees and the additional taxes that would be coming in would actually cover that when that project was done, yeah.
So there's still
So-
$775,000.
So
It's
what-
gonna be on you.
Yeah, no, it's not.
So I don't wanna be-
yeah, we,
Now
no,
it's not, well,
Gentlemen,
it's on us.
Gentlemen,
no, I'm saying, but we can't afford it. The project isn't viable at that
Right,
number.
but at the last meeting, you stated you'd do 50-50.
Until she came up with a number
But-
that
but-
was
okay,
$300,000 more than is reasonable, yes.
Okay, so out of that 50-50, $150,000 would have been yours anyways at 50-50. Did you think the town was gonna, we took your numbers. You said that those numbers were good numbers. We said that they probably weren't, that they'd be higher.
We were at 1 million, this is
You
30%
were at
higher now.
900,000.
Okay, right. This is
So if you had
35%
half of
higher,
900,000,
Okay.
450.
right.
Right.
And I said 50-50 at 1 million, and I'm still willing to stand up to that. We can do $500,000.
okay, before we get, because we're not gonna sell that tonight.
Right.
We're gonna,
Yeah.
that's just not, time up, if you don't mind, okay? Mike, you wanna?
Well, I don't mind, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna do it anyway. Thank you, Kenny. Go ahead, Mike.
Not to cut this short,
Yeah.
but so we can move on. You've heard our side of it, $500,000,
Yes, sir.
and that's all we got.
Yeah,
Okay, since we met last, and
Yes,
you
sir.
heard me ask the question
yes, sir.
of whether we could afford $500,000 the last time or a little bit more.
Sure.
$500,000 is our number.
Okay.
If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Well, there's a question of how we carve things up, though. Okay, so if you look at the $500,000 and you consider our sewer connection fee as a part of this, all right, that brings it up to 775. There's still, let me pull my phone out here for a
Okay,
second.
so I'd rather not focus on the sewer impact fee, because basically, that's only gonna be paid as the units are built. That's not gonna be a one-time shot, my understanding is that.
We would pay it up front with the permits, with our building permit before we went vertical.
Right.
We would pay the entire
But
fee.
the bottom line is, you're at that 700,000 number. What's the exact number that would, Larry, can you
Exact number for what, Mike?
take $500,000 from the 1.2?
It's 725.
Yeah.
So at this point, the best we can do is the $500,000. You've got to
Yep.
come up with the 725. Plus the sewer impact fee.
Yeah, that's a killer. No,
See what happened,
There's
Andrew,
no
if I
conversation.
could
Then
just.
there's no
Mo-
conversation.
There's no conversation. I mean, and when you think about,
Andrew?
And
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say that.
no, it's not, listen, it's
It-
not,
it-
it's
it
not.
is what it is.
It isn't that I feel like saying
No,
that.
no.
Yeah.
Andrew, though, can I just?
Yes, sir.
Larry, can you pull your mask down as well, so we can?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I
yeah,
forgot
yeah,
about it.
yeah.
When we met last time, and we were at 900,000,
Right.
the conversation was around what the sharing of that cost would be in order to do the sewer upgrade on Saco Avenue. And at that point, you were projecting that you wanted it to be 50%, 50/50 of the 900,000. None of that understanding on our side was that included the $250,000 for the connection
I got it.
fee. So by doing that, by throwing in the connection fee now, we're not talking 50/50 at all. We're a much
Well,
different
when you
point.
think about the connection fee.
But that's where we're coming from, because
Right.
that's how we understood it.
But the connection fee exists to improve your sewer systems, which hasn't been done in this case in decades and needs to be done. That money exists to fix these problems. So if we all agree that we're paying this money to fix a problem that the city has, and also you're asking us, as a developer of this, to carry 75% of the upgrade for this, you're upgrading a system that gives you capacity for future development. You're fixing a problem that you've had for decades that's getting increasingly worse and will fail one of these days, and you're gonna, this $1 million too is entirely on you if we don't walk in the door and contribute. And you don't have our $275 to help offset the cost, and you don't have our $300,000 a year in tax revenues, and you don't have the jobs that are created from maintaining the property and managing the property, and the additional tax base from the people that will move to the town. You know, if you look at it from a global perspective, all right, we are going to put $20 million into this town if we can do this project. That's a minimum number. It's more than that if it's condos. And you have a huge benefit to the town from the additional revenue, from the tax basis, from the people who live, who are going to live here, and everything else that goes along with it. So when you think about the cost to the town, it is vastly offset by the improvement that the project brings to the town. I mean, it will, the cost to, whatever the cost is to the taxpayers, will be offset within 3 years from the tax revenues of the project by itself.
And so, just to shorten this up a little bit, because I don't disagree with what you're saying.
Right.
The bottom line is we got $500,000 to
Yeah.
work with.
So
That's the bottom line.
if we can
If you
wiggle,
guys can make it work somehow with that number, fine.
if
Let
we
us
can,
know. If you can't, then
if we
project.
can wiggle
You're
around-
the fourth or fifth person that's tried to develop that land.
Yeah.
In probably 15 or 20 years that I've been
Right.
involved in
And this
town
is why it
politics.
doesn't happen.
And it's a difficult piece of land is what it is, okay? I didn't make it that way, you didn't make it that way, it just, it is what it is.
Sure. No, look, it'd be great if we could connect in front of the property, but the line is so jammed up with grease from the high school that wasn't built right, it's unusable.
Yeah.
Right? The line on the other side is failing. This is not it's a tough piece of land. It's the infrastructure is completely out of whack. The infrastructure hasn't been cared. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
If we can talk about, and we can go back and noodle on things, but if we can talk about the impact or connection fee as being a contributing factor, I can see if I can go back and figure out the $250,000 gap. I said we go to the 50%, let's call it the 500 grand. We're still 275 short. We might be able to figure it out, but we can't find 500.
Why, when we talked about this at the last meeting, was that 250,000 not mentioned? I had to take an emergency call, I apologize. But why was that not mentioned? Because it was never brought up when it was 50-50. No one ever brought up? those impact fees?
To me, and that's on me, that we're not trying to be squirrely here. The fee, I think you stepped out when I was having this conversation with Mr. Toussaint. The the sewer connection improvement fee goes to fix these kinds of problems.
For the whole town, and we're now doing
Right.
$23 million upgrade at 3
Okay,
So it goes towards that too.
Look, I
covers the cost of that.
I wasn't trying to be dishonest or short, like, I wasn't trying to be two-faced with you on that, okay? It
I
was,
realize that, but when we talked, it was 450,000, 450,000. It wasn't 450,000 you pay, and then we'll take the 250,000 off the impact fees and only give you 200,000. It was, we'll pay 450, you pay 450. The impact fees were never mentioned.
it's neither here nor there. We don't
Well, it
have,
is here nor
we
there.
don't have a viable project with these numbers, so it doesn't matter.
Correct.
Okay? It doesn't matter. So there's no sense in arguing about it. Numbers are numbers. I think someone told me you're a real estate guy, you understand. The numbers are the numbers.
Well, I'm not a real estate guy, but I've invested.
Okay, well, this isn't me being greedy and saying Adam and I want another $400,000 in our pocket. It'd be nice. We don't have a project, so it doesn't matter. We can't absorb that kind of cost. You're looking at, 1,300 feet of pipe removal and repair. Look, at the end of the day for us, we're not so deep into this, which is why we haven't spent the money on the other side because of this issue, that I don't just put the plans on the shelf and in 10 years, maybe you guys do the pipe, maybe you don't, we'll bring it back to you. Whatever, and it's entirely on you, and we'll pay the sewer connection fee. We've got other projects. We're in Westbrook, we're in Portland. We can do those things. We'd really love to do this piece, but it doesn't look like if we can get over I hope you're not angry with me that I didn't articulate well enough in the last meeting. Okay, okay, good, because I don't want anybody to feel ill about it. The facts are the facts. I mean, I can try, if we consider the sewer impact as part of this, then we can go back and see if we can find the extra $275,000, and we're writing a $775,000 check instead of which is basically the 500 on top of the 275 that I was talking about anyways. Because 2 weeks ago, this was 35% cheaper. And I understand why a consultant would want to put something in front of you that was as conservative as possible, but you're asking for us to plan to something that just went up 35% because a consultant wants to, cover all the bases. And maybe it is and maybe it isn't. Maybe we all get lucky and this is $900,000 and it's not that big a deal, but we don't know that, right? So, for me to have a conversation with you yesterday about something that's 35% more expensive today in the order of magnitude of $1.3 million, it's not, chump change. So anything I talked to you about 2 weeks ago is hard to relate to today. This is a drastic increase in costs driven by the consultant's review.
I'd say it's not driven by the consultant's review.
It's not her. I'm not putting it on Stephanie and saying she did a
No, it's
bad
not
job.
that. I'm just saying, wait, take just a second. No,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that when we talked about it 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, we pointed out the fact that we didn't think the engineering costs that you put in there were adequate.
Okay.
We didn't think there was a contingency that was showing that was adequate. We pointed that out.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, there was some differences that Wright Pierce found with respect to what Shaw Brothers was using as to estimates for trench widths and for linear feet. So
again, it's a different world.
It does happen that way.
Right.
But your numbers that we pointed out, we didn't think they were real when we saw them. So.
Right. Okay. I get it. I mean, I don't know how we can try and work around it is all. If the benefit to the town, the tax revenues that will be coming in perpetuity the next 10 years, this is $3 million in tax revenues for you. No matter what the town contributes to this, it's paid for in 3 years from the taxes that don't exist today. No matter what. If you include if we say, okay, we'll include the sewer connection fee, I'm telling you, I think Adam and I can try and figure out how to make that. I don't know that we can make it work. I can try to figure out how to make it work. But the extra, it's going to push us over the edge. We can't. I mean, things are too tight already. And as I explained to you, why I went through the whole LIHTC explanation was we have to base our plans on what we have today. And I can't go ask, we can't go to the next step without a sewer connection.
And ask the landowner to lower their cost.
So I want to just add this into that. Either way,
We could.
the way it sounds to me, either way, we're going to have to go to a public referendum on this because we're going to spend about $750,000. Whether you include the sewer impact fee and we do it as one project.
Yes.
And we spend $500,000 plus the $250, and you're paying $500,000 to get us to the $1.2 million. We still have to go to public referendum to get that approval by the voters because we're going to spend $750,000.
I understand. Okay, and that's next year.
That's actually adding the impact fee to that. I mean, however you want, it's semantics at this point. It really is. I mean, we give you $500,000. You're going to give us $250,000 in sewer impact fees. We still have to spend as a town $750,000 to get that project done.
Does it make any difference to you? Does it make any difference to you about like I think you brought up, Mr. Toussaint brought up previously about the idea of front loading it, kind of band-aiding, moving pieces. I mean, if we did this, if we put up, say, 500,000, that you could then band-aid or work through, you know, say that brought you to 2 or 3 or 4 years down the road where you've got tax revenue built from the project, and you've got our front loaded 500,000, you know, does it make sense to approach it in a way that, in a more creative way that pieces it together like that? Is that helpful, or is that?
Through the chair, I think when we talked last time with the engineer, that the right way to do that would be to stop the sewer line replacement from Temple Ave and work your way backwards. I don't know how that impacts the ability.
You asked that question, I think I wasn't quite sure, it's quite totally clear on.
Well, you can't upgrade the line and make the bigger, line bigger and then reduce it down.
No, I remember you making that point, but I thought she had an answer that wasn't quite in line with that exactly.
Okay, so,
Maybe Larry could follow up with that.
so not to get stuck on this one issue about the sewer line, but, so there's another concern that council has as well, and that's the possibility of the rental units as opposed to owner-occupied units. So, that's a concern of council's as well, so.
Well, I mean, that's what this land is zoned for today, but we're
Right.
never gonna get there because we don't have $1 million to pay for a sewer line and a sewer connection. It's never gonna happen.
Okay.
There's no, I mean, it's dead. You know, there's no conversation. We cannot bridge that gap, not even close to it.
And the final thing you should know is if we had to go to the vote, is if somehow tomorrow or next week there was a way, you won't get in front of them until next June, you know?
Yeah,
So we can't give you a commitment on anything
right.
Well, we
until it went to vote. If
give you our endorsement, we can certainly do
Yeah,
that.
well,
That's-
we
yeah, that's-
could give you the endorsement, but it ain't worth shit
Right, of course.
until it's voted on,
Yeah.
okay? So know that part of it. This is why I say we're stuck at 500,
Yeah.
okay? Like it or not, I don't think we're trying to be, you know, ridiculous here.
Of course not.
We can only spend $4.99 without going to vote,
Yeah,
okay? $4.99 and 1 penny puts it in front of the taxpayers. And I'm not trying to
yeah,
preclude going to the taxpayers in all this conversation either, but this is how we come up with the $500,000 number.
Of course.
We don't have a choice.
So if
You want answers today to be able to move forward that you're not gonna get now
no, we can't, right.
until the next election cycle, which will be in June at the earliest.
Sure,
If you could do the 500,000 without a referendum, and then put the sewer impact fee waiver, whether to next year, or something, do something like that work, as we build out.
I personally would have an issue with it. My hopes was to turn around and take the added tax revenue and the impact fees, and it would end up covering the cost of the tax. So I mean, that's where I was at, and that's only
Sure.
because of the original conversation we had. So-
Obviously, we're going to have miscommunication now beyond that conversation at this point. But I mean, the 270,000 is made up for it in less than a year on tax revenue anyway. I mean, so the number is, you get the return quick enough. But I'm just trying to figure out a way, if you could piece it together with.
Well, we get the return once 80 units are built up. And if it takes you 4 years or 5 years to build them out, that's when we get the return. We're not gonna get $300,000 the minute that project's approved and you put the first foundation in the ground. So we gotta get that out there straight. So if you're selling those units, because I don't know if anybody out here feels differently, but I just don't want 80 rental units over there. So if you're gonna sell them all out, it's gonna depend on the economy. We have potentially a new president coming in. Does the economy change? How does the housing market? This could drag on for 5, 6, 7 years before you sell 80 units over there. So I can't look at the taxpayer and say, we're gonna cover it within 2 years because of the $300,000 we're gonna be getting, but we're not getting it until they're all sold.
so even though the zoning as of right allows for 90 units of age restricted, you would flat out deny that because you don't want rentals, even though it's allowed?
I said I'm not enthused with having
Okay.
rentals.
Well,
Yes.
I mean, it's sort of a moot point anyways, because the $1 million kills it. I mean, like at that point,
But that's
I'd
something
have
you
to
do
get,
with the
I'd have to
planning
get the
board on
land
anyways.
for
You're not dealing
free.
with me on it.
You know, I mean, look, we can go back, talk to the owner and tell him, we'll give you X, but I don't think that's gonna hold water.
So, well, just to touch base on that, the age restricted thing, because obviously that's 55 and up, so that's it's a different
And that-
variable.
and
It's a
that-
different
and that-
variable.
That's different.
It's a different variable. I mean, when I said owner occupied, I'm assuming the families would be renting.
And that's what we desire to do, you know,
Right.
but there's there's nothing certain when you're dealing with any of this, right? There's nothing certain that the planning board is gonna approve
Right.
the.
change to-
Right, it's just even a waiver, but there's no certainty that they'll do it. Now, we got a lot of head shaking that, yeah, we wanna see market rate, and we wanna see families and everything else. But, you know, push comes to shove, it is what it is.
Right.
Even if it was market rate, it still doesn't matter. The $1 million is too much for a market rate deal. Even if I came here today with the rights to do market rate, the $1 million kills the deal. So is there any way to get creative with the way we look at the sewer impact fee? And I know how we feel about that. And it's nice to be able to say, yes, in 1 year, the taxes are paid for themselves. So if we talk through timeline, you brought up timeline. The way we'd want to move this forward, okay, if it went to a LIHTC deal, there's two ways that you do LIHTC, okay? There's a 4% credit that you can apply for anytime. It's called a walk-in credit. That's what we're basing our numbers on this project off of. There's a 9% credit, which this land will not qualify for, largely because of the cost to assemble the land. But that 9% credit, you can't even apply to that until June, July next year. Doesn't get allocated until September, October. With the 4% credits, if we get a warm and fuzzy from you guys, if we can figure this out, and we can go back and figure out our piece, okay? And we can figure out how to get this sewer paid for and everybody's happy with it, and it's happy, it's something that we can approve. I can apply in the next 30 days for the 4% credits, and we can have the determination on that within 45 days thereafter. We can have our construction drawings done 90 days after that, and we'd want to be in the ground as soon as the ground thawed next year for the most part. So we're not talking about what happens if who gets elected in COVID and everything else, and can I sell houses? I know I can build it, because, you know, we're dealing with state housing funds, and it's the only way you can get it done, really, because at age restricted for the unit count, you can't pencil from a market rate perspective.
Right.
So that project would move very quickly if we were to do that. And if we could find a way in the next 2 weeks to give you guys something to vote on, and we could figure out how to find another 275 on top of it, that we could all get moving, we'd be prepared to, you know, get working and submitting a full site plan approval to the planning board. So we're trying to move this very quickly. We've been working on this for a long time at this point. We really don't want to, you know, just chuck it on the shelf and wait till whatever happens downstream if we don't have to. If there were a way to get creative with the sewer impact fee, whether it's a timing or a semantics issue or whatnot, you know, that would allow Adam and I to go back, and now we're trying to fill a $275,000 gap, not a $575,000 gap. And that makes all the difference in the world. I mean, it does. And it's not, I'm not telling you this because I want, you know, one more ivory comb. I don't have any hair to comb it with anyways, so, you know.
And I understand that, and I recognize that. I mean, I'm gonna, I guess, go against the tide here a little bit, but even with the $500,000, I mean, to me, I wouldn't support a $500,000. To me, it was like we're pushing it out of the taxpayer's opinion. I mean, $500, I'm not gonna push it right to the penny, the nickel, the $100,000, or the $1,000 mark.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? I'm gonna give you a referendum for, you know, $499,995.
Right.
Or a project, so we don't have to go to referendum. I can't support that.
And I agree with you on that. And again, I apologize. I've got to go. I've had a building alarm going off when I took the emergency. So
Sure.
the cops are waiting for me to come over and shut it off, and hopefully nobody's in the building. But anyways, my thought, and again, I know you don't want to go back to the original conversation, but the original conversation was that, and I'm telling you where I'm at, was we were at about $450,000. And then when I took the impact fees and I took the taxes coming in, the impact to the town's taxpayer was nil.
Right.
It may have taken a few years before it happened and got to that point, and then going forward, we have that $300,000 coming in, going directly into the taxes, which made it very, very favorable.
Sure.
And I was all for it. So I mean, that's where I'm at. I'm not saying I can't figure out some way of working around that, but I want the least impact to the town's taxpayers on a project as possible. I also know that the sewer needs to be upgraded. And I also know that if the project doesn't go through, and we have to upgrade that sewer within 3, 4, 5, 7 years, the town's gonna be paying for the whole amount. So there's a balancing act there. But as Sean was also saying, I don't want it to appear that we're trying to get it done and keep it under 500,000, so the taxpayers don't have a say on it. So what we're trying to do is cover what the taxpayers are gonna end up having to pay.
Sure.
So that we're protecting them. Okay, so that's where I'm at. And again, I apologize. I know that this is real important to you, but I
understand.
putting the alarm company off when I was out
I
there.
don't think there's much further to go with this anyways at this point.
Not
so-
tonight, really, yeah, just, yeah, not tonight. Thanks, Ken, yeah, just,
Okay.
yeah, so if we can, I guess both go back to the drawing boards, we can get you our final thoughts as well, let you know. I mean, I guess the concerns were the owner occupied, not owner occupied, you know, the age restricted, and so, and then as well as the money. So we've got a couple obstacles that we're kind of trying to deal with as well, just to try to get this thing in motion for you guys, so.
With the other hand, I mean, is there a way to tie the age restriction removal to this piece of the, I mean, I don't know that anything makes any sense for us financially. We've got to go back and run the numbers and see. I mean, even at a market rate, you know, with what it costs you to build these things and what you can sell them for, it's not like we're making a mint. You know, you got to pay the investment, right? The financials are financials. But if I had some certainty that we could talk about, you know, tying the age restriction removal to, you know, what has become $1 million payment, you know, then at least we can have a different discussion. You know, I go back and I talk to the owner. We haven't bought this thing yet, thank God. When I go back and I talk to him, I can say, look, we have this, I need this. You know, it is what it is. I mean, is there some way to tie one to the other?
Well, just personally speaking, I guess if they were owner occupied, so if you're gonna sell off 80 units, I think it'd be a lot more palatable than you having control of 80 units that could be potential rental units.
Sure.
I mean, I'm
How
not,
do we get there, though? Because for me to even talk about trying to figure out how to come up with $1 million payment, I have to have owner occupied. The rental, forget it, it's dead. There's no LIHTC rental deal on the planet
Okay.
that's gonna work with buying the
so
land.
your
at $1
intent is to
million.
sell all 80 units?
That's
not
what we
to-
want
Not to
to do.
hold 80 units and potentially be the landlord for 80
No.
tenants.
No, we would love to do
I guess,
market rate here.
for me, it would be a lot more acceptable
Exactly.
if we could, if you told me or told council or even the planning board, you're gonna sell all 80 units.
Yeah.
Now, if that homeowner decides to,
Before we go too far into this, that's really a planning board.
it is, but I'm just saying, I'm just throwing.
We need a recommendation from the